How's it going, my curators and curatorets? Well, you wanted a EQ and compression tutorial for the drums? All right, here we go.
All right, so I'm using Ableton and Toontrack's Easy Drummer 2. The kit I have running right now is the factory kit. Exactly as it comes out of the box without any tweaking. This kit is like seriously over a decade old, and in modern tech standards, that is old ass. So I'm not exactly reaching for anything fancy here. This is as vanilla as it gets. But even just out of the box, if you program decently, it doesn't sound bad as a starting point. The problem occurs when I throw this bass track at it that I made earlier. So you can hear everything, but those drums are really struggling for space. And the moral of that little experiment is you don't work on your drum sounds in a vacuum. You want to throw the most aggressive bass or guitar or synth sound that it's going to have to compete with for space, and you shape it alongside that sound. Now, most drum plugins I've ever heard of allow you to break each drum element out into its own track. Here for the demo, that's exactly what I've done. I've broken my drum tracks into the kick, the snare, and just basically everything else. So now you can apply any effect that you want to the kick and the snare individually. And I'm going to solo that kick against the bass. Now, most people starting out would try to fix this by just putting up the volume, but you can see here that I'm already at 0 dB. Generally, you don't want to go too much above that, but for the sake of experiment, I am going to boost the volume. Okay, so I can hear the kick better, but it still doesn't sound amazing. And the bass and the kick really don't seem to play well together. It's like they're stuck together, but they sleep in different beds. So volume boost is rarely ever a solution to two or more things stepping all over each other. The solution will usually be EQing and compression. Now, this is a rather short form content tutorial, so I'm not going to go into what compression is and what it does, but I will demo its power in making things sit better in a mix. I like using this glue compressor in Ableton. Even though it's generally for mixing several tracks together, it just looks rather intuitive and it works very well. And now I'm going to play with the knobs here and I'm going to see what it does to this kick. So you hear the difference when I'm messing around with these knobs. You can tell that it's already starting to pierce through. And even though it seems like, you know, you're kind of just twisting knobs and you're just kind of pressing buttons, that's kind of what you want to do, actually, because you can read the theory on what a compressor does, but it's not necessarily going to give you an intuitive understanding of what it is that's going on. Moving on, I'm going to add a factory Ableton EQ. As a general rule with these digital EQs, you don't want to boost so much as you want to cut out the things that you don't want to hear. So what I'm going to do first is, since it's a kick, you know, there's a lot of bass frequencies, and a lot of these frequencies are not going to get heard. They're just going to occupy space inside the mix that could be better used for something else. So now let's see. I'm going to try to scan for a frequency that I really don't like. And generally on a kick, it's that frequency that makes it sound like it's a tire bouncing off of concrete. Like this. See, like around that area right there. I'm going to kill that. All right. So it sounds a little bit better. And then I'm just going to give it a quick, you know, I'm going to create a click out of nowhere. There. See, not too much boosting. Generally, you don't want to do too much boosting using a digital EQ. You'd rather use an analog EQ. But you see already that it sounds better. All right, now let's do the same for the snare. So I'm going to give it a glue compressor. Let's give it the attack. Less release. I'm going to reduce the threshold, and I'm going to boost the compression. You hear that? This is the extreme scenario of it. You hear how those ghost notes are really starting to come out. I'm going to soften the clip so that it doesn't distort so much. All right, that sounds decent. Sounds better than it did before. Without. That's coming out a little bit better. And now we're going to EQ it. And let's see. I'm going to look again for something that I really don't like. I don't like that. You hear how it sounds? This area seems to have some kind of helmet type of punch. I'm going to preserve that area. I like that area. I'm going to widen it, in fact, because I like that frequency neighborhood. Now I'm going to kill some of the bass that we really don't need for a snare. All right, so it's a little bit better already. Let's hear. Versus. Anyways, so this is sort of the process that you want to go through. There's going to be some tinkering, there's going to be some experimenting, but this is sort of the process that I go through when I'm producing. Now I'm going to show you the settings that I settled on. Here's for the kick, and here's for the snare. This here is a reverb. This is the only thing that I have that is not native to Ableton, because Ableton reverbs are not that great. So now I'm going to hear the whole thing. Let's throw that reverb on again. Not too shabby. It'll do.
And that's it. There isn't much more to it. You got to mess around with those knobs until you got something good, and you learn. And you learn that way. You really, really do. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Bye, Instagram.